Happy day, Sagittarius. This is your weekly reading for the week of February 20th through February 26th. I am Macy LaShawn Sledge, the face and personality behind Earth to Sagittarius. My birthday is November 22nd, so I am with you as you are walking this journey, and I thank you for being present with me as I am walking it as well. So, the way that the weekly reading works is there are four questions that I pose, and I pull one card as the initial response to the question, and then I pull a second card to serve as a clarifying card to provide a little bit more clarity. So, we will get into the reading. I love, love, love to start with the breath because the breath settles us in. It grounds us. The breath prepares us so that we can receive what it is that we need to receive. So I do want to invite you to take a moment to close your eyes, take your attention to your breath, take a deep breath in through your nose, and sigh the breath out. Deep breath in and sigh the breath out. Open your eyes, grab your journal or your notebook so that you can take whatever notes you need to take, and let's get into it. So, the first question that we have is, what does Sagittarius need to leave behind this week? What do you need to leave behind this week? And to answer that question, which is just one card for this question, we have the Ten of Wands. Okay, we have the Ten of Wands. And so, what are you needing to leave behind this week? And the answer, Sagittarius, is complacency. Okay, you are needing to leave behind complacency. What I'm hearing is that you've been stuck in this space for a while. I'm even being given a timeline, and the timeline that I'm being shown is about 3 to 5 years. You've been stuck in this complacent energy. You've been experiencing a lot of stagnation over the course of 3 to 5 years. And you've made plans, you've tried to create some momentum, you've tried to get things going, but you've kind of always given up. It's like you've kind of given up. It's like if things didn't move as quickly as you needed them to move, then you would give up. Then you would take a step back, you would fall back, and then you would just kind of settle into this complacency. You would kind of settle into this stagnant energy. And so this is what you are leaving behind this week. Okay, Sagittarius, you're finally leaving this behind. And listen, the complacency was probably orchestrated by your soul. I'm hearing let's try to look at it through that lens. The complacency was orchestrated by your soul, and you probably experienced a ton of frustration over the course of this 3 to 5 years because you just couldn't figure out how to move forward. You couldn't figure out what exactly it was that you wanted to do. And so this complacency, it wasn't necessarily a negative thing, but it did shed some light for you. It did kind of wake you up a little bit. It did kind of remind you of your power. At the end of the day, that's what I'm hearing is that as this chapter where you've been experiencing a lot of this complacency is coming to a close, what's happening is that you're remembering your power as that chapter is closing out. Okay. So that's what you're needing to leave behind this week is just the complacency, the relationship that you've had, this bond that you've had with stagnation. You're leaving that behind. All right. And you could be leaving it behind in many different areas, right? In your relationship with yourself, in relationships with other people, what it could be jobs, it could be, you're in a city or in a state that just doesn't resonate with your soul. Okay. So you can also look at it from many different angles. Where am I experiencing complacency? Where am I experiencing stagnation? And that will give you insight into what it is that you need to let go of. All right. So the second question that we have is, what is your soul's intention for you this next week? What is your soul's intention for the week ahead? Okay. And the first card that we have to answer that question is the Knight of Wands. All right. The Knight of Wands. So again, we have the Knight of Wands coming through to answer this question. What is your soul's intention for you this week? And we can also apply this to What do you need to leave behind, or what are you leaving behind? And it's this feeling of restlessness, all right? The Knight of Wands is coming in, speaking to this restless energy that you've been experiencing, right? It feels like Sagittarius, you have all this energy. I mean, you're a fire sign, for goodness sake. You have all this energy, you have all this fire within you, but you just haven't been sure or clear on what it is that you should do with the fire. You haven't been sure or clear on what it is that you should do with this energy that is just bubbling up within you. You haven't really known or seen where it is that you should be placing that energy, okay? And so something that I am hearing coming through right now is that this week, your soul's intention for you with the Knight of Wands coming through, your soul's intention for you is for you to move closer towards your passions. What are you passionate about, Sagittarius? Identify what it is that you're passionate about, even if it's just a hobby. What hobby have you been interested in? Have you been thinking about that you haven't really given yourself to? For me, it's learning Spanish. That's one of the hobbies, one of the things that I've been wanting to take on, right? And so when you think about overcoming this restlessness, think about it in that way, right? What are some things that I can begin to pour my energy to? It doesn't always have to do with making money. It doesn't always have to do with traveling. Okay, I'm hearing that. It doesn't always have to do with moving around, all right? Because the Knight of Wands is here, okay? The Knight of Wands is here. The Knight of Wands is present. And when we think of the knight in the tarot, we do think of adventure. We do think, the knight represents this adventurous spirit, right? And we are naturally adventurous human beings, Sagittarius. That's just who we are, right? That is who we are. But I'm also hearing that think of it in terms of it's not just about physical movement. It's really about moving your energy, directing your energy into what you want to direct it into. Okay. And so that's what the Knight of Wands is talking about is identifying what it is that you're passionate about and then pouring your energy into those passions. Okay. And the card that we have coming through to clarify is the Seven of Cups. All right. It's the Seven of Cups to clarify. And the Seven of Cups is coming through because what it's speaking to, right? We're looking at the question, what is your soul's intention for the week ahead? And what it's speaking to and how it's coming in to clarify the Knight of Wands is the Seven of Cups is this reminder for you to allow fantasy to become reality. Okay. Allow the fantasies allow the fantasies to become reality, right? So again, for me, the example that I used, I've been fantasizing about studying Spanish, about learning Spanish, right? And I have started and I have stopped at times, but it's really just been a fantasy. It's really just been something that's been living in my head, right? So the Seven of Cups is coming through to say, if you are going to move closer to your passions, then you have to allow fantasy to become reality. You have to let go of indecision, right? And that's another reason why you may feel like, oh, I don't really know what my passions are. And it's because you're indecisive. And so the Seven of Cups is coming through to say, let's get clear. Let's get clear. Okay. Let's take our head out of the clouds. Let's get clear on what it is that we're passionate about so that we can move forward in a productive way, so that we can move forward in a way that supports our adventurous spirit and energy, right? So that is the Seven of Cups coming in to clarify is saying, listen, get your head out of the clouds. And if you do want to move closer towards your passions, then you need to give yourself permission to allow fantasy to become reality, all right? So the third question that we have, Sag, is what does Sagittarius need from themselves this week? What do you need from yourself? What do you need from yourself? And the first card that came through for that is the Devil. Okay. The Devil is the first card to come through for this question. And the Devil is simply coming through to say, Sagittarius, what it is that you need. Okay. And listen, before I say this, let me just preface it by saying you're not going to like this because we are not people who like self-restraint. We are not people who like to integrate self-restraint and self-control. But the devil is coming through to say, okay, I love it because it all ties together. The devil is coming through Sagittarius to say, listen, if you want to move closer towards your passions, if you want to overcome the complacency, if you want to overcome the restlessness, you need to practice some self-restraint, right? You need to stop indulging in impulsivity. You need to stop indulging in the things that you are using or relying on to satisfy your ego. And you need to practice self-restraint and self-control so that you can begin to experience soul satisfaction and fulfillment. That's what we want, Sag. That is what we want. We want to experience soul satisfaction and soul fulfillment, right? That is what we want. That's what we desire. And we can have that. We can experience that. But Spirit is saying, in order for us to experience it, in order for us to have it, we need to implement some self restraint. That's what we need this week. We need to implement some self control. And you can look at, again, you can look at every aspect of your life, every area of your life to identify what area of my life is this referring to, because it may not be referring to what it is that it's referring to for me, right? It may be something totally different for you where you need to practice self restraint and self control. But that is what we need to give ourselves this week. That's what we need from ourselves this week. And the reason why we need it, right? The reason why we need to implement that self restraint and that self control is so that we can begin to tune into ourselves, right? And here we have the hanged man to clarify that for us, right? To clarify that the reason why we need self restraint and self control this week is so that we can tune in to our true essence, so that we can tune into our souls, so that we can surrender to our highest and most conscious selves, so that we can hear how it is that we need to move forward in order to overcome the complacency, right? So that we can really hear and tune in, what are my soul's passions? What is my soul passionate about? Right? So the devil coming in to say, listen, what do you need from yourself this week, Sagittarius? You need self-restraint. You need self-control. And then the hanged man coming in to just say, listen, the reason why is because I want you to come back home to yourself. The reason why is because it's time to come back home to yourself. The reason why is because it's time for you to realize and recognize that your soul really does have all the answers that you need. It's time for you to come back home to yourself. It's time for you to surrender to yourself so that you can recognize and realize that your soul knows the way. All right. So listen, the self-restraint and self-control is not about control. It's about giving yourself the space and opportunity to to go deeper within yourself so that you can create more expansion in a very intentional and authentic way. Right. And so we love that it's not really about Sagittarius, you can't do, Sagittarius, you can't go. Right. It's not about that. It's about Sagittarius, you need this from yourself so that you can expand and so that you can expand in an intentional way, right? We want to be more intentional. We want to live these adventurous, spontaneous lives, and we can, but we're being asked to let go of doing that in a very impulsive way and to start doing it in a more intentional way, in a way, again, that is not satisfying to the mind and the ego. Not, and I'm not going to say not satisfying to the mind and ego, but to do it in a way that is not only satisfying to the mind and the ego, but to do it in a way that is satisfying to the soul and also fulfilling to the ego, right? It's all necessary. But we want to make sure that we're doing it from the soul first. And when we do, listen, the ego doesn't even have a say. The ego will just be sitting back in the back seat being chauffeured by the soul, right? The soul is driving and the ego is sitting back, just kicking back, relaxing, right? And that's what we want. We want to relax. We want to relax. So the fourth question is, how is Sag to apply their awareness this week? All right. And the first card that we have coming through for that is the Eight of Wands. The Eight of Wands. And the Eight of Wands is referring to things moving quickly. Okay. All right. So once you surrender to yourself, once you tune back into yourself, once you turn inward, and you really start to ground and to return to your center, and you really start to allow your soul's point of view and your heart's perspective to come first, listen, things are going to move swiftly. The pace is going to pick up. Okay. But there's a question coming in with the Eight of Wands. How is Sagittarius to apply their awareness this week, right? That's the question that we're looking at. And then the Eight of Wands is presenting a question. And the question is, yes, there might be this swift movement coming in. Yes, things, the speed might be picking up, things might be picking up. But the question that the Eight of Wands is bringing, but is everything a yes? Does everything deserve a yes? And that's how you need to apply your awareness this week, right, Sag? It's like looking at what's coming in and how things are picking up, and then pausing to ask yourself, does this really align? It might feel good, it might look good, but does it really align? Okay. Is the answer to everything yes? And you really have to be honest with yourself, Sagittarius, because sometimes we just like to be involved, right? Sometimes we just like to be involved. But you really have to ask yourself that question, does this deserve a yes for me? Right. Things might be coming in very quickly. Opportunities might be coming in very quickly. New relationships might be coming in very quickly. New jobs, whatever it might be, things might be coming in very quickly, Sagittarius. Okay. Things might be moving forward very quickly. But does that mean that you have to say yes to it? Not always. Not always. Okay. And we have the Queen of Swords to clarify this. We have the Queen of Swords to clarify this. And the Queen of Swords is saying, stick with what feels true. Stick with what feels true, authentic, and clear. Nurture what feels true, authentic, and clear. Because when you do, then, right, when you nurture what feels true, authentic, and clear, then you're able to move forward with what truly resonates with your soul. Because again, not everything is going to resonate with your heart. Not everything is going to resonate with your soul. And in the past, we're used to just being involved. We're used to just going. We're used to just acting impulsively, right? Oh, it's here. That means I need to move forward with it. That means I need to attach myself to it. No. The Queen of Swords is saying, stick with what feels true, authentic, and clear. Because here's the thing, when you don't, it goes back to this Ten of Wands. When you don't stick with what feels true, authentic, and clear, that's when you experience the complacency. That's when you experience the stagnation. And that's what we're leaving behind, right? So stick with what feels true, authentic, and clear. That is what the Queen of Swords is coming through to say, to clarify with the Eight of Wands. Okay. So the oracle card that we have for this week, Sagittarius, is the throat chakra. The throat chakra. And there are a few things that I can feel and hear coming up with this card. And the first thing is that Sagittarius, it's important to remember that communication, that listening, reflecting, are also parts of communication, right? And this is important because in the past, Sagittarius, when you would reflect, you would often question what would come up. Okay. You would often question what would come up and you would doubt yourself. But the throat chakra is coming through to say, listen, remember that listening and that reflecting and listening are both vital parts of communication. Listening to yourself first. Listening to yourself first. Reflecting so that you can ask yourself, okay, I'm hearing, I'm listening, and I'm reflecting what is really true? What is really true? And how do I move forward honoring what is true? How do I move forward honoring what is true? And it's also remembering that Sagittarius, when you move forward honoring what is true, it may not always feel good. It may not always feel good, but it's necessary. It's necessary. And the more that you honor what your soul is saying is necessary for your process of expansion and evolving, the more that you begin to trust yourself. Okay. And the throat chakra is also all about trusting yourself, right? Letting go of this tendency to suppress yourself in order to please your ego, in order to please other people, right? It's listening to yourself, listening to how you feel, listening to how your spirit, your heart is processing information, reflecting on it before you act, taking some time to just sit, right? Stillness is also a part of the process of communication. When you take some time to just sit, to reflect, to listen, you then can discern how to move forward, right? So give yourself permission to honor what is true for you, to honor how you feel. Give yourself permission to speak clearly on how you feel. And then allow yourself to ask your heart, to ask your soul, how should I move forward? How should I move forward? And honor that. Don't suppress what your heart and soul wants for you. Honor it. So that is the weekly reading for you this week, Sagittarius. I appreciate you being present. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you responding. I appreciate you subscribing to the channel. I do want to invite you to join me for the weekly Reiki meditation that I host for the Sagittarius Collective every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. It is a weekly session that I host specifically for the Sagittarius community. And we come together to breathe deep. I pull an intuitive card at the beginning. I do a short intuitive reading just to kind of determine and discern what is the focus for the Reiki meditation. And then we'll have a little bit of discussion, community discussion around it. And then we'll move into the Reiki offering and we'll close out with some journaling, just some free writing at the end. We might have a little more discussion, and then we'll close out. So I would love for you to join me for that. You can sign up at the link that is posted in the description underneath this video. I love you so much. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next week.